Thank you for joining us here on the NPTE Final Frontier Podcast. My name is David.
And my name is Emily. Today, we will be discussing dating and studying. Now, this can be a very tricky topic, and it can be really challenging for a lot of us to figure out, well, how do I make time for my relationships and prioritize my studying without, offending my significant other or still putting myself out there throughout these months preparing? So, this is something David and I wanted to discuss with you guys just to give you some of our recommendations, maybe some things that we have personally gone through, or by talking to our own friends within the field, they've had to overcome throughout their dating and studying life. So, the first thing I want to discuss is communication. And I am a huge advocate for communication. I think in relationships in general, while studying, just in life, communication is key. And I think by letting others know where you stand is very important. And what I mean by that is letting them know if you are, whether you are in a relationship, single and searching for a significant other, whether you're dating, but maybe not official yet at this point. Maybe you're engaged. Maybe you're already married. Whatever your relationship status is, communication is important. And letting them know, letting your significant other know where you are at. Let them know that you're going to be busy studying, that they are still a priority, but you need to put studying first for these next few months because it is so crucial for you to prepare for this exam so you can pass this exam. And I think that's a really key point is letting them know, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to maybe respond to these texts throughout the day. It's not that I'm not listening and I don't care, but I'm going to be studying. I will respond when I can. That leaves out the guessing factor. That leaves out the worrying factor. That also leaves out you feeling like you need to respond. You already told them you're going to be busy. You already told them that maybe you can't spend as much time with them on the weekends these next few months. And I think by communicating, it doesn't only help you in your studies, but it also helps your significant other understand why maybe you're not able to be spending quite as much time with them right now. And again, opening that door to communication, I think can also then help them get a better sense of where you're at within this relationship right now. What do you think about communication and understanding, David?
I think I totally agree with you. I think communication is so important in any relationship, but especially in a romantic relationship. I think that having that open communication is the most valuable, having a trusted communication style, and you have to talk about some of the important topics, such as your emotions and how you're feeling, what you're going through. And also, you have to talk to them about the things that are going to be coming up, that you can do, what you can do, what you can't do, what you can be a part of, what you can't be a part of. And you have to include them. I think that inclusion is so important for that communication aspect. Don't just keep them in the dark on how you're feeling and how studying's going, because all they're going to be doing is why are they not talking to me? Why are they ignoring me? Did I do something today? Is
They
it
must
me?
not care about me, right?
Yeah, yeah, they must not care because, they didn't text me today and I texted them good morning. But they didn't get a chance to respond. And then you start to get into the head, get into the head, get into the head. Well, guess what? That morning, maybe they decided to put the phone to the side. Maybe they're taking a practice exam. Maybe they're out exercising. Maybe they're rewatching a lecture or they're in a tutoring session. There are so many things that are possible, and that is exactly why communication is so important. And you made a important point as well. You brought up the word understanding. I think that having an understanding both ways is huge, and communication both ways is important. It's not just on the person who's sitting for the examination to communicate and understand. It's on the other side as well. That person that you're dating has to, or that you're married to, or whatever, has to have an understanding as to how important this is to you. And they
And
also, yeah.
just to take that one step further, David, I think yes, it's so important for our significant others to understand where we're coming from during our time of studies, but the only way they can understand is by us first communicating with them. They won't be able to understand what we're going through until we explain to them what we're going through. Maybe they're not familiar with how much time, commitment, and obligations really go into this preparation for the exam. So we need to communicate with our significant others or within our relationships to make them aware of just how much time really does go into this. And also making them aware of, you kind of mentioned it, our emotions, I think is very important.
Mhm.
And that's something I think I didn't excel with during my boards prep, is letting those around me know if I am feeling stressed, anxious, emotional, overwhelmed. And I sometimes do wear my heart on my sleeve. So I don't mean to take my emotions out on others or those surrounded by me, but maybe I was a little quiet at times. Maybe I was, not as bubbly and fun certain days because I was thinking about my studies. I was anxious about the upcoming exam. And if you let others know about those emotions, and not that you need to tell them everything, but just maybe let them know, hey, sorry, I'm going to be a little quiet today. I've got a lot going on. Just so they know where you're coming from, I think is key.
Yeah, when you get done with a practice exam or even after a lecture in the evening, you may not want to talk. You may not be that bubbly person. You may not want to talk about your day. You may just want to go to sleep. Communication is so important, and not just with this examination, but communication throughout your entire relationship is a key. I mean, Emily mentioned that it was a key for a successful relationship, and that's totally 100% correct. You need communication in your relationship. So open up that door and have that understanding both ways. Understand how your studying habits are going to impact your significant other, how they are going to feel. So have understanding both ways as well. But something that you can do that could help in these situations is to involve them in your studying at times. There are many ways that you can involve your significant other in your studies. How so? You can do quizzing. You can have them quiz you on a topic or a lecture or anything. You could have index cards and they could just do flashcards with you and try to quiz you using that too. You can also do special tests on each other, where maybe your person, they'll do a special test or they'll demonstrate it. Maybe they'll demonstrate it on a stuffed animal, and you have to guess what they're doing. And you can also practice it on them. So also another fun thing that you can do is just what you can even present to them. I know. I should really take out that word fun because that doesn't sound like fun. I'm sure that there's a way that you can make it fun, but you can create a PowerPoint presentation and present it to that person. Maybe they're studying for the exam too. So present it to them. That's a great way that you can help involve them. What about you, Emily? What do you think? How can you involve somebody within your studies?
Well, I was very fortunate during my studies because my fiance is also a physical therapist, so he kind of understands the lingo and the jargon, so it was easier for me to ask him to quiz me because he knew what the words already were and he knew the special tests, so it made it kind of quick and easy without me having to teach him.
Yeah,
But like
shout
you
out to
said,
Matt.
shout out to Matt. Oh yeah, he'll
Shout
be
out to
very happy
Matt.
I gave him a
Shout
shout
out
out.
to Matt. He's gonna replay
But
this a million times now.
yes, this is going to be his favorite episode ever. And yes, he does listen to the episodes. But I think sometimes maybe it's not as quick and efficient to actually use your significant other in that way. But like you said, David, maybe then you teach them. You pretend like you are the teacher and you're teaching a lesson. Maybe it's not that type of relationship where you're at the stage where you can be practicing with one another, teaching one another, but instead, maybe they already have their own work that they need to catch up on within whatever their, studies are or whatever their working field is. Maybe they just have some busy work or other stuff they need to catch up on regarding, bills and things like that. So maybe it's just saying, hey, look, do you want to get together at a local coffee shop? Do you want to come over? I'm going to be studying for a few hours, but if you have other work to do as well, we can just do our work together. It's
I think
still,
that's great.
although it's not spending time necessarily catching up with one another, it's still being together in the same room, which is a great way to feel included with that significant other at that time. So I think
Yeah.
that's another way you can incorporate being together.
I'm just going to chime in real quick, and I think that's a great idea. You don't have to necessarily be helping that person study, but you can still be together. You can call it quiet time,
Hmm.
where you both have an understanding that it's nothing offensive to be offended by. It's just quiet time where I'm going to focus on my studies while you do whatever you have to catch up on, whether it's bills, whether it's studying, maybe it's reading or writing.
I was just going to say that maybe they're an avid reader and they're like, I could use a few hours to read my book. You do your thing. Let's just sit in the same room.
You know what? And I think that that is so valuable. And I know that, as you mentioned, that it's not exactly the togetherness that you may want it to be, but I think that I am a hopeless romantic. But I feel like if you're in the same room as each other, you are side by side each other or close to each other, I feel like that bond is really special and that's still very kind and nice to have around you. And it's very encouraging too to help you throughout your studies. It help encourages you and uplifts you and makes you happy, which is so important when you're preparing for this.
I completely agree. And just to bring up another great point is I think developing a routine is very beneficial. Now, not only for yourself, we've already talked about the importance of developing a study plan, a routine for you in your studies, but also developing a routine with your significant other. Because yes, studying for these boards, this licensure exam is extremely important, but your relationships are also very important. So maybe that's having a quick 5 minute phone call in the morning or the evening, you setting aside a specific time of day to have that quick 5 minute call to catch up, to ask, well, what are your plans for today? Or what did you do today? That way, if you weren't able to spend as much time communicating throughout the day while you're studying and focusing on your studies, you can at least still have a quick catch up. And I think that is even more important than sending texts throughout the day. Have that 5 to 10 minute Zoom call, phone call to really communicate face to face, hearing each other's voices. If you're not able to get together for a quick in-person time together, I think just developing a routine or a time where you know you are going to hear from one another is very beneficial.
Yeah, and let's be honest, is it always 5 to 10 minutes?
No.
No, no, not at all.
But I think finding 5 to 10 minutes per day at least is very beneficial. And then finding, certain times the phone call goes too long, as it should. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that. Don't forget the importance of being able to not always be rigid with your study schedule. That's important. But then also finding time. Maybe you do want to go to a baseball game on the weekend. Maybe you do want to go out to dinner on Friday night. There's nothing wrong with that. You need to find time for those things. But again, when it comes to a routine, I still think having at least a designated time each day for those quicker sessions is also beneficial.
Yeah, and it all loops into that understanding too. If you can't, maybe you can't meet in the evening to do that talk sometimes, or maybe in the morning, maybe you're just fried. Have an understanding too. And you get that understanding by communication.
Communication.
Yes. But also, as you know, and as Emily mentioned, you're going to want to go on dates. You're going to want to go to a baseball game, see a movie, watch Netflix. Just sit on the couch together and do nothing. Guess what? Earn those breaks. Don't just take a break. Don't say, hey, let's go to a baseball game, and you still have so much work to do. You haven't been doing your keeping up with your video lectures. You haven't been reviewing your weaknesses. You haven't taken a practice exam yet. Then you really have to think long and hard what you're doing to yourself. if you, let's say you took a practice exam that day, okay, yeah, you earned a break. Go for it. Go on a date later on. Treat yourself. But know that you should really earn those moments. What do you think about earning those moments?
I think I am a huge advocate for the treat. I love to treat myself, but especially like one of my favorite treats is to go get a nice cup of coffee or a fresh pastry after a long run. That's like one of my favorite treats. But I only really do those things once I've accomplished something. And you don't
Mhm.
have to only treat yourself always after accomplishments. But I think for the boards, like you mentioned, earning your breaks. You don't just take excessive amounts of breaks, but if you know, hey, I want to go out to dinner on Friday night. We have a reservation at my favorite place. We're going at 6 p.m. Well, what do I need to do this week to make sure I get everything else done so that I can be actively at that dinner, enjoying myself, spending time with my significant other because I've gotten everything else done that I needed to. I've earned this and I'm not going to be scrambling to play catch up now because I kind of took it too easy throughout the week procrastinating. I
Mhm.
think by having those planned breaks, those planned treats ahead of time will help hold you more accountable and prioritize your studies on those other days.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And
What's your
I,
favorite treat? I need
oh,
to
I
know.
was about to ask you. We record way too many episodes together. I was about to ask you before we segued. I am going to go with an apple turnover. I love a good apple turnover, especially if it's
Oh,
nice and warm and you put a little vanilla ice cream on top.
there we go.
That's where it's at. What
I
about you?
I am a sucker for a blueberry scone,
Ooh, okay.
but that's like a midday treat.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my midday treats, my evening treats. I love desserts and I love pastries. So it
Well
all
then,
like at night, I want more like vanilla, chocolate, like
okay.
ice creams, things like that. Midday treat, good little coffee shop bistro. Give me a blueberry scone.
Nice. There you go. I think that's a solid selection.
This could be
And
a whole episode talking about Emily's treats.
ooh, all right, we're gonna note that down, and I
Stay
think that's,
tuned.
yeah, Emily's Treats, upcoming soon. Now that you have heard our episode about dating and studying, here is a quote from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Your best teacher is your last mistake. Guess what? This is so relatable for this episode. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you're not always going to have it correct. You're not going to have it exactly as it should be all the time.
You're not?
No, I know it's so frustrating, but we're not perfect. We are not machines. So you're going to make mistakes. Maybe you won't inform your partner about your study habits. Maybe you won't have that communication. Maybe you're going to have a slip up and not have that understanding. It is okay, but learn from it, progress from it, and progress from it together with that person who you are with. So keep on fighting for your dream because you are powerful, you are strong, you are a final frontier warrior. You will pass.
Thank you very much for listening. For more information on the NPTE Final Frontier, please visit npteff.com. You can also check out all of our social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Till next time, have a great day and a powerful tomorrow. Thank you once again.